Hey YouTube. So I decided to do another video documenting some of the items in my Boba Fett collection. I had a couple people express some interest in seeing what else I had. So by no means does this represent the full scope of my collection, but unfortunately, given the size of my apartment, I can't have everything here, so the majority is in storage. But I do have a few of my favorites here with me. So I'm going to go over those, and not as detailed as with the life-size figure, but to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that I have in my collection, what kind of stuff, and what it covers. So probably the standout piece in this room is this guy, the Gentle Giant life size or life scale action figure. And he's pretty cool. I like that he actually has joints like a real action figure, even though given his weight they can't support any upwards movement. So even though they can be moved a little bit, you're not really going to get any posing out of him, except for the head, of course. That goes without saying. The figure actually can't hold the blaster on his own either, and I found a really cool trick when I was in Disney World once, because they have this figure on display at their Star Wars launch bay, and I noticed that they had one of these thick plastic strips going around it, and so I found one at Lowe's, and lo and behold, he holds it now beautifully. This, of course, is the Sideshow Collectibles bronze figure, and I haven't looked at it recently, but it's a pretty low number, probably in the between 15 and 30s. So I've had him for years, and he's standing on a nice marble base. That's a Boba Fett, that means business. And behind him is a print by Acme Archives that was initialed by Ralph McQuarrie. And I just think that's really cool because, I mean, anybody who loves Star Wars probably loves Ralph McQuarrie's art. I mean, really, how you can't have Star Wars without it. And this is actually really kind of cool, unique piece. This was obviously a zombie Boba Fett drawn by hand by Charlie Adlard of The Walking Dead. And I purchased this just before the TV series got popular. It was like right before it started, and I got it for a pretty reasonable amount. And I'll bet now if I tried to purchase that again, it would be sky high. But it is a legitimate drawing. I don't know if you can tell, but you can see in person pencil lines on it, things that he revised as he was going along, especially in that jetpack, the rocket there, and along the armor there. So that's a really cool one. I do love that a lot. This was the Master Replicas Empire Strikes Back helmet, and I didn't get the signature edition first off because I have so many items already signed by Jeremy Bulloch. It just seemed kind of superfluous to add another one given the cost of it. The other thing too was if you were able to get one of the limited edition helmets before, I think, the 250 numbered cutoff, you actually got 2 small prints with it. So I was more interested in getting the prints with it. So I do love this helmet. It has the rangefinder with the blinking LEDs and just a lot of nice detail on it. Even going, so if you look at the back, you have the board inside there visible. And, it's not perfect by any means, but given the difficulty of replicating the Boba Fett helmet paint job, I think Master Replicas did an admirable job. And, at least they were actually able to get that into production, unlike more recent prop replica companies. This poster here is from the 15th anniversary edition of The Empire Strikes Back that was released in 2000. And this was actually a test proof of that. You can see down there, it says it. It's a little tough to get it because the poster itself is actually Mylar. So it's super reflective and doesn't photograph all that well. But there are only 50 of these in existence. So this is one that I'm very proud of. Most of the images that I have, I just bought regular frames for. I didn't go too crazy. But that one I had professionally framed because it's too nice of a piece to just throw in a standard frame. Plus, because it's a movie theater one sheet, it's really difficult finding a frame that fits it. So this Homecoming, that's the name of the image there. That was done by Brian Rood and is released at Star Wars Celebration in Europe. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to go there. But after Celebration, he released a few online, so I was able to pick one of those up, fortunately, because I really love that piece. This was from Celebration 5 in 2010, and it's called The Hunter and His Prey. And this was an artist proof. This is one of my favorite images from that, so I was really glad to be able to get my hands on that eventually. And I'm also a big Disney fan, so I love that juxtaposition of Star Wars and Disney. So this is a really, really cool piece. Only 30 of these were made as Donald as Boba Fett. And it's from the Star Wars Weekends, which I greatly miss. And I'm very upset that they're no longer going to be doing those. But this was also one that was released to Disney exclusively by an artist who does a lot of work for them, Greg McAuliffe. And it was released during Star Wars Weekend, and I went the following August. And I happened to go there while the artist was there. And he was gracious enough to sign the back of it and also draw a little Mickey. So that's a fun detail that not many other people probably will have on theirs. So, just something cool in mine. This is the recent Sideshow Collectibles premium format Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett. Overall, nice piece. No, again, not perfect, but that Empire Strikes Back paint job is not easy to replicate. So I think by and large, they did an admirable job. You have a lot of pretty good detail on the helmet there. Even if the armor is kind of funky looking, especially those gauntlets there. This right one is just a little bit too square, and I feel like his left is just way oversized. But overall, cool looking piece. Then you also have their concept Boba Fett, which I really love. And since it's based off of concept art, there's really no right or wrong way to do it. And he has a switch out portrait, so I'll show you guys that. And I swap them from time to time, depending on my mood. There you go. And so that's the more traditional T-visor bucket. And over here I just have a bunch of little knickknacks. Of course I have the recent Hot Toys Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. And I have mixed feelings on this one. I think overall the design is really nice. The sculpt is pretty good. But I think that the blaster is way out of proportion. It is not that big. I also have the Master Replicas Return of the Jedi blaster. And in terms of scale, I just feel like it's way off. A couple other Disney knickknacks here. They released Boba Fett gauntlets with a disc fire, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I also have a bunch of the items that they released on May the 4th. So, of course, I got all that stuff. And then I have my Star Wars Boba Fett in the box. Now, unfortunately, the box was open at one point in time. The bubble was kept on there, and it was sort of cut. If you can make that out there, but still, very proud to have that piece, and I think it's a nice companion to my giant action figure. The two go together quite well. So, and this over here is one of the Dawn Post Deluxe Boba Fett helmets. And to me, this is a really interesting piece of Boba Fett history. At the time when it was released, I think it was cost somewhere around $800, and the first place I saw it was, oddly enough, Disney World. It was before I was a Boba Fett super collector, but I wanted it. And, you know, at the time I was probably 10 or 11 years old, so clearly it was out of my price range, and I knew that it wasn't going to happen, but it's just one of those things that I always wanted. And years later, I found one on eBay for a reasonable amount. And one of the things I think that is worth noting about these helmets is that the later editions, the paint jobs got really, really sloppy. They were just large swatches of pretty flat color, and it didn't represent the helmet very well at all. So I was lucky enough that the one I happened to find was actually a very low edition size. It's number 40. So I lucked out, because if I had actually been able to cough up $800 as a 10-year-old, who knows which one I would have gotten. It may not have looked as good as this one. So I consider myself fortunate, and it is certainly one of my favorite pieces of my collection, if nothing else than for the nostalgia of it, given that this is one of the things that I first wanted. So, alright guys, so that's it. I might be posting more. I certainly have more stuff to show off, but this is just a little snippet and a couple standout pieces. Thanks a lot.